goodness, my goodness. Where has the week gone? I was just talking to you yesterday, and then I started talking to you Tuesday. Want to let you know I appreciate you joining me. I am grateful for you. I tell you, every time I see you, or you see me, well, I see you in the marketplace. When you see me, you say, hey, listen, I really appreciate you. This is not a narcissistic statement or arrogant or prideful statement. I really appreciate you being here because I know that you have other things that you could be doing, very important things, but the fact that you land here for 60 minutes every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 11 to 12 o'clock, I'm grateful for that. On Tuesdays and Thursdays on these radio airwaves, 104.3 FM in Pearl, Mississippi. If you don't know where that is, then you put your finger right in the middle of Mississippi. You go to the suburbs just a tad, and Pearl, Mississippi is there. That's where the signal is emanating from the studios of WPBP 104.3 FM. And also you join us every Wednesday at 11 o'clock on the various platforms, digital platforms that we have, particularly our own private digital platform, IgniteMS.tv. We launched that platform in June, and there are multiple programs on that platform, and we have some great news that we're going to be rolling out in the next couple of weeks about the build out of the network, and we can hardly wait to share that with you. I appreciate you because you let me know that you appreciate the program. I want to let you know this, that the program is not about me. It's all about you. You say, well, you don't even know who I am. Well, I know God, and God knows you. And it's about inspiring you. It's about encouraging you to embrace your divine purpose and live it with the spirit of excellence, knowing that you are not accident. You are no accident. You're not here accidentally. You're not here incidentally, but God providentially created you, and he put you in this space called time to make a significant difference. I don't care how old you are useful. If you have breath in your body, God has a plan. God has a purpose for you, and you are making a sustainable difference. You know, we have a couple of little gerbils in our microphone today, but that's all right. You got to press. Hello, Aunt Dean. I see you, Aunt Dean. Love you so much. All the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Appreciate you. I'm not going to meander. Because I'm going to jump to my guest today, which is a dear friend. If you saw my wife and you see her, they're almost like biological twins, but she has been a friend of ours for, oh my goodness, almost like 30 years. And her name is Katrina Myricks. If you've lived in the state of Mississippi for any amount of time, you know her because she has touched a lot of she has a lot of touch points in corporate America, in education, in the pageant industry, and in leadership, in life's coaching, in the faith community. And I am just so delighted to have her. Her resume, if you were to Google her, her resume, her body of work in such a short period of time of her life, she's a young lady, it's very extensive and it is very accomplished. I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading the academics of her resume. They're appreciable because if you've been following us for any length of time, then you know that this is not an academic lace program. This program is geared toward actually having real people talk to you about their experience in life with the motivation of you being encouraged. Hello, Sister Winsley. Appreciate you. And Brother Winsley, thank you so much. I take time to acknowledge Sister Winsley and my Aunt Dean. Let me tell you why. Someone would say, man, you were on a roll introducing your guest, but that was a hard break for you to acknowledge your Aunt Dean and your Sister Winsley. Let me tell you why. Because they're the elders in our community. And Pastor James, Sister Winsley, said his wife, Cynthia James, she was having some difficulty logging on to the program a couple of weeks ago, and he teased and said, now, if Sister Winsley and Brother Winsley, senior citizens can find their way to log on to Larry Nix and Aunt Dean, then young folks should have no problem logging on and streaming onto him. So Sister Winsley, Brother Winsley, and Aunt Dean, just want to let you know I appreciate you. I care about all of those who stream and who listen, but the fact that I have my seniors, my my golden age seniors logging in. That just gives me so much refreshment. Katrina Myricks is the executive director of the Madison Chamber of Commerce. She is a 30-plus year retired community college business instructor. She is a breast cancer survivor. She's a public speaker. She's a workshop presenter and trainer. And she's a life coach, but more importantly, she's a child of God, and she's an ambassador for the kingdom of God. I don't want to go into the semantics. She's well accomplished. Boy, when she hits that microphone and that stage or walks into a room to make a presentation, you know she's there because she presents not just with the academia of her brain, but from the passion of her heart. My friend, finally, I am happy to welcome Sister Katrina. Welcome to Defining Moment.
You know, I'm excited to be here with you.
I am delighted. I am delighted to have you. I told you she was to be here last month, but a little health issue came about, and I told her this morning. I said you were supposed to be here today. Yep. We have people that listen to us terrestrially, whether you're driving around in your vehicle, because Mississippi is still kind of a rural. You know, we have a lot of people that listen digitally. They stream. But a lot of people still, because of the rural nature of our state, they still listen to us on radio. And I appreciate them. And so I appreciate those of you we have a lot of delivery drivers that listen to us. Your husband's former workplace, my wife's current workplace, United Parcel Service, and then others from Federal Express, so forth, and Prime. You listen to us, and I just want to let you know I appreciate you. My goodness, when you think about your life to this point and all that you've gone through in life, she's well accomplished. When you think about all that you've gone through in life and you find yourself here, what would you say?
I'm truly blessed. And going back to the song, and highly favored.
Yeah.
Because God has brought me through a lot. And a lot of times I tell people what you see on the outside doesn't mean it's what's on the inside. We see a lot of individuals when they walk into a room and we judge appearances, and we sometimes think people are okay, but then on the inside they may not be. So across the span of my life, I have put up a facade that everything was okay from the outside, but then again, it may not have been okay on the inside.
When you take a look at Katrina and her resume, one would think she's never had issues. Mm-hmm. She's never had problems. But Katrina, I want to ask you this question, and I want people to really hear this question, because you've asked this question too. If you're honest with yourself, what do you do when everything is going well in life? You're on a path of success, however you define success. What do you do even when you're serving God? Now, I'm talking to you, audience, as well. What do you do when the bills are paid, or it's okay, you're not on the verge of being evicted? So you may be living a paycheck, but you're not unhoused. What do you do when you're in relatively good health and everything's okay, and all of a sudden life throws you a curveball? And I'm going to ask my guest that question. What do you do?
You have to turn to your support team. And your support team is very small. And I say you turn to your support team because you need prayer. And there are two ladies in my life who I've always turned to when those curveballs have come. And this is going to bring me the tears. And one is, of course...
That's actually why I put the napkin out.
One is, of course, your wife, Carla Nix.
Yeah.
And then another one is a lady, a first lady in Houston, Mississippi, Audrey Kennard. Those two ladies there have prayed me through a lot. And I tell someone, you have to have a praying individual in your life who truly knows you, who knows the Lord, who can join you in prayer and lead you down the path that you need to go. Because God is writing your story. You are not writing the story. And I learned that long time ago. You're just the person who's walking through what God has been designed, where your life has been designed to go. but he's leading you through that path. And every now and then you have to have someone to remind you when you get off that path or when life crosses your curve that you have strayed. God didn't stray, you strayed. And those two ladies have always reminded me that I was the one who strayed, but I have to stray on the path because God is still writing my story, and he's going to take me in the direction I need to go in order to be blessed and to be a blessing to someone else.
So for those that feel like, my goodness, I'm doomed, this is my destination. I'm in a circle. I'm in a vicious circle. God cannot use me. Now they're saying this breathing. Okay. God can no longer use me. I am worthless. I've made so many bad decisions. I've been so disobedient. So God can't use me. But then again, they're saying this while they're breathing. What would you say? In fact, I just feel compelled to ask you, will you just encourage them? Look at that camera and look at them, and I want you to encourage them.
What I want you to know is that you are a child of God, and that God is going to take care of you. You just have to give yourself over to him and trust him. You know, there's a saying that when you go take it to the altar, you leave it at the altar and let God guide your way. But what you cannot do is take it and leave it there and then you try to interject along that path, because when you interject, you're messing up the plan that God has for you. So I'm just going to encourage you, take it to the altar, take it to the prayer line, wherever you need to go, but leave it there and let God design the path that he has already laid out for you, and you walk that path without you interjecting, and you're going to see where you come out on where you're going to come out on the other side.
So Katrina is an absolutely stunning, beautifully attractive, and I can say that because I know her husband, my brother Ken. All right, she's a pageant winner. She's a pageant coach. She's a life coach. All right, now I want you to keep that. I want you to keep that. So I'm not flirting with her. I can, and we'll just laugh about it. And her husband just like, okay, that's Larry. All right, but I say that because I want you to hear this. Now, when you look at her exterior, she's just stunningly beautiful. All right. But I want you to hear this. 8 rounds of chemotherapy. 8 injections. 36 rounds of radiation. A breast cancer survivor. And on November 6, 2025, I felt that one. What the enemy meant for bad, you're still here to praise God.
I am still here. 12 years cancer-free, triple negative breast cancer, the most deadliest form of cancer for
and
people
you're
of
smiling.
color. I'm smiling, but God brought me through that journey to be a blessing to someone else. But what you do not know is that my daughter, Caitlin, told me the night that we told her that I had cancer, that, Mom, I've already been praying for you.
Wow.
And God told me to tell you, you just got to go through the mountain. And I'm like, through the mountain? She said, Mom, you have to go through the mountains. That's what God told me to tell you. And that you're going to come out on the other side, because I am not going to lose my mom. So, Mom, just go through the mountains.
So you're like, okay, I get it. Appreciate that. Such a lovely daughter. But there's a sweet story with your daughter.
But there's a sweet story with my daughter.
There's a sweet story. Your life is one that God has orchestrated from the very beginning. He has given you and Ken broad shoulders to weather, to carry the anointing that he has entrusted unto you. Because others possibly would have shake their fist at God and say, why me? But I am very sensitive to the pain. I can't even imagine what you've gone through. All right. But you're still standing, and you're talking about the grace of God.
Now, I'm talking about the grace of God now, but when the diagnosis came, that was not there.
I appreciate you being honest.
That was not there.
I appreciate you being honest, because they're folk, and I think sometimes Christians, and this is a broad brush, I think sometimes we cripple people. because we forget that pain is real. And sometimes we victimize the victim even more by saying, well, you just need to have faith and pray a little bit more and God will work it out.
No.
As opposed to being sensitive to the pain that they're going through, because pain is real. Jesus felt those spikes in his side and in his feet and his hand. It was real. All right? So pain is real. But God places people in your life.
Absolutely.
To help you walk the journey. And not to point at you and not to judge you and not criticize you, but to keep you lifted in prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, my friend, Katrina Rankin, on the final on Stay Back.
Katrina Myricks.
Why did I say that?
You said Katrina Rankin.
I have her on my. You know her, right?
I know Katrina.
She used to be anchor WAPT and then went to Memphis, Tennessee.
She worked for you.
And she worked for me. I have no idea. She must be talking about me.
She must be talking about you.
Yeah.
But
Katrina Myricks is my guest, my longtime guest for 30 years. But so now we jumped here, and thank everyone for you joining me. We jumped here, but I want to go back to your rearing stories. When we come back, all of you, thank you. This I know this conversation is going to bless you today. And I said to myself, I wonder if this is going to be enough time. So that means I'm going to get you back and put you on my podcast.
Oh my Lord!
I'm going to put you on my podcast. Will you come back and get on my podcast? See, that's right. Yeah. Now these people that are watching saw you, so she can't go back on her work.
Come.
Katrina Myricks is my guest today. Thank you for joining me. Bless you. We're talking about her having to face life's storm unexpectedly. So what do you do when you have anticipations of going one way in your life and God taps you on your shoulders? You've had extraordinary success in the pageant industry, in the corporate industry, in the education industry arena, but you didn't plan to have triple. What do you call it?
Triple negative breast cancer.
Triple negative breast cancer, and I did some research on that, particularly for the African American woman. That is the most deadly kind that anyone can have. What's the survival rate of that?
If it's not caught early, the survival rate is very high. When I say high, from the standpoint of they're not going to make it from that point. But if it's caught early, the survival rate is low, that you will be a survivor, that you will be here the next year so that you can tell someone, I went through this storm.
And you 12 years.
And I'm 12 years. I'm 12 years. And it was not an easy battle for the first year and a half. It was not an easy battle. And I tell people all the time, what you have to understand is that breast cancer is different in each individual because it depends on your body, the condition your body is in, and what you're going to go through. But you have to learn to listen to your physicians. You have to have faith, but you also have to learn to listen to your physicians and not the individuals all around you, because they all have.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
They all have their opinions too, and what you should and should not do. But as I told people as I went through the battle, is that the only opinion that mattered to me as far as my recovery were my physicians outside of my faith in God. Because God had already told me out of the mouths of babes that I had to go through the mountains, because that's what Caitlin told me. And then the morning of my surgery, my husband was having a very hard time because the year before, his mother had died from cancer. And my mother could not understand why he was not eager to go to the hospital with me, and I was okay with it. And I was sitting in the car praying that morning, Larry, and I said, Lord, I need some assistance. I need some peace. And I don't know where it's going to come from, but I need for you to just take my mother and sort of assist her in accepting this journey I'm about to go on, because it's going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. And when we pulled out of the driveway and got onto the interstate, Yolanda Adams came on. This battle is not yours, it's the Lord.
Mama.
Got down the highway, Stand with Donnie McClurkin. And when we were pulling into the St. Dominic's parking garage, praise him.
Wow.
So if you go back through my battle, as I tell people, Caitlin gave me confirmation that I just had to go through the mountains because God told her I was not going to lose my mother. Then that morning, he confirmed for me. He told me the battle was not mine. It was his. I just had to stand, and at the end, I had to praise him. And from that point on, I just had to go walk the walk. I never looked back on it from the standpoint I had cancer. It was rough, but I never looked at it as a negative connotation, if you want to talk about it from that point. I just looked at it from a standpoint I had to go through this battle because I don't know what's on the other end that you want me to do, but I'm going to serve you when I come through this and talk about it or mentor or whatever it is to help someone else get through this.
So when you write your book, the title is Never Looked Back. All right.
I don't know if I'm writing a book.
Yeah, I just gave you a title of the
okay,
book.
thank you.
Never
Thank you.
Looked Back, because
Never
I
Look
was
Back.
inspired even what you said, because there's some folks that go through challenges in life indecisively.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because pain is real. They
It's
want to
real.
have faith. They don't want to die, but the wind is blowing on them so hard that they don't know what to believe and who to believe. And you said that's why it's important to have your very close circle of friends. A friend of mine said it this way: it is not only important that you know, it is not only important that you know who loves the Lord, that you know who loves the Lord. It is important that who you know not only loves you, but knows the Lord and knows that the Lord loves you.
Amen. Amen. Because
That they just don't love you, but they love the Lord and they love the Lord you, because they can serve as a conduit.
those two ladies, I will call on all the time. And it may not be, I may not have talked to them for a month.
Sure.
But when I call on them and I tell them the situation I'm in and what I need, the prayers that they give me, oh my God, it just blesses me to a standpoint that I forget the situation that I'm in. And I start to look on it from a standpoint of what they're giving me in that prayer and where God is trying to take me, that I forget about it. Because they both tell me all the time, trust God, trust where he's trying to take you. Forget what man is trying to do. Take a look at where he's trying to take you. Go pray on it. Think about it, meditate, and when you want to call me back, let's discuss it. But right now, they're truthful with me. You know, they're telling me, you're trying to go the direction of man. You're not trying to go the direction that God wants you to go. And the funny thing is, they don't know one another. And they're giving me the same prayer.
It's not like they're comparing notes or anything.
They are not comparing anything. So when you have two strong prayer warriors who are in your life and they give you the same information, you can't help but follow the path.
And the genesis of your encouragement, certainly your faith, but the genesis of your encouragement that day started with your daughter, Caitlin.
It did.
And there's such a how God introduced her, and I'll put it that way, how God introduced her into your life. Share that story.
Well, Caitlin is adopted. And a lot of people don't know that.
You wouldn't know it if she stood right beside you.
She is my mini me.
Yes, she
and you
is.
can see the smile on my
Yep.
face that
Yep.
she brings when I just give
Yeah.
her, talk about her, give her name.
Yeah.
Caitlin is a derivative of Katrina. And so I purposely named her Caitlin from that standpoint. But Caitlin is a blessing from the point when I was told I couldn't have children. My physician at the time asked me, was I okay? And this is what I told him. This is the first time that I said this out loud. But I told him, I said, no. And he said, okay. And I said, it's not that I'm okay that I can't have children. I'm not okay because I would never have a daughter that looks like me.
Mm.
And he left the room. He came back with a picture of 3 boys. And he said, look at them. And I'm looking. I said, who are they? He said, they are my sons.
Wow.
And I said, but they don't look like you. And he said, yes. Just because you give birth to them, natural birth to them, and they're your biological children, does not mean they will look like you. He said, they look like their mothers. So we laughed about that, and for 3 years I prayed and said, Lord, I want a child that looks like me. I want a daughter that looks like me. And Larry, what do I have? I have a daughter
that looks like you.
Looks like me.
Yeah, looks like you.
That looks exactly
and
like me.
not only looks like you, she has your mannerism.
That looks exactly like me. She is my joyous, angelic princess. And so I call her my little Jap from that point. And that's what it stands for, joyous, angelic princess, because I told her God blessed me with her. And because God blessed me with her, she will always be a reminder is that she is the princess that God placed in our lives.
Have you ever been at a point in your life that you've asked God, what are you trying to do? You know, what are you trying to be? Can you let somebody else share in these burdens? I mean, it's like you've gotten to me and you stopped the assembly line. And you're like, okay, well, you know, Ken and Katrina, I mean, they can handle it.
Yeah. That's what I did when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I just looked, and after, you know, I had my moments. I had my screams, my hollers, my whatever. And I did. I questioned him. I said, now, look, you've already taken me through something. And that was hard. But you brought me out on the other end, and I have a blessing. I have my Jap, because that's what I refer to her as. I said, but now this, and there's not a history in my family. Why? What's the purpose of this one? And then when I do this one, God, what else are you going to throw at me? I've gone there. I've done that. But when it's all over and I go through those journeys, I understand he's just using me as a vessel to reach someone else. Because throughout my cancer journey, I've helped a number of individuals who they've called me, wanting to just know my process, wanting to know how did I do this, how did I do that. From that point, 1 or 2 friends who have gone through infertility, I've talked to them about that. So he's using me, but I don't have to be public in letting people know how he's using me. So sometimes I think it's just the hidden vessel of going through the process and being a voice for other people.
So for those that feel as though they're being crucified by Jesus while they're still breathing today, and I keep going back there, it's like I'm digressing, and I'm not, because there are some people that are going through hard times. Mm-hmm. There are people that are going through emotionally, physically, spiritually hard times. Mm-hmm. And they feel, because the enemy works through our emotions, not through faith. He hits our faith through our emotions. They feel like, I'm doomed. It is no way I can get out of this. And this is my destination. Based upon your experience with God, what would you say to them again?
You want me to look at this camera and tell them?
Look at that camera again.
I would tell you what my grandmother always told me, is that you have to have faith the size of a mustard seed. And as I became an adult, I had to go find out how big this mustard seed was. And when I saw that, and I envisioned my faith is much larger than what that little seed is. And you have to have that faith that's the size of a mustard seed, and know that if you trust and believe in God, he's going to answer your prayers. But what we have to truly understand is that it may not come when we want them, but they're always right on time. And throughout all of my battles, things have not come when I wanted them to come. I prayed for them to be at this time frame. But remember, you are not ordering your steps. God is ordering your steps. And you have to walk the path that he has designed for you, and not the path you have designed. So if you have that faith and you walk the path the way he's setting it out for you, it's going to come in due time.
What do you think this has done to Ken and Caitlin? Because they're under your roof, not to mention your other family members. Mm-hmm. How has this affected them? Has it strengthened their resolve in the Lord, in their resolve in, well, maybe when I'm hit with life, I can get through it too, because I saw Mama do it, or I saw my wife do it? How has this affected them?
I think it strengthened both of them's faith with it, because Ken had a hard time accepting the fact that I was diagnosed with breast cancer, especially since the year before his mother died for cancer. And so his first thing was, we have to have a second opinion. And when the second opinion came back that it was breast cancer, I just looked at him and said, it's going to be okay. And when Caitlin gave us both her statement, what God said, he just looked at me. He said, well, cue ball, it's going to be okay.
Wow.
And it was cue ball because as I lost my hair, I was bald. He looked and said, well, you said I was going to, you thought I would be the first one to go bald in this family, and I didn't. So it became a little comical around the home to help us all get through it.
It's important to have resolve in your faith, or have faith in your resolve. Have resolved faith that though you may go through darkness, the Lord is ever present. He won't abandon you. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back. More to find out. So you keep talking about your faith. Were you reared in a home of faith?
Oh, I was. I was reared by a village. I grew up in a single parent home, but right down the street were my grandparents. And my grandparents made sure that, along with my mother, but we were in church every Sunday, choir, usher, Sunday school, vacation Bible school, everything. So I was actually raised in the church. And so as I became an adult, it was just something that carried over because of, my upbringing from that point.
What is the temptation of being in, because you entered the pageant life and very successful, what is the danger of allowing the bright lights to woo you to go in that direction? Because you could have easily gone in that direction and that industry. In other words, people get in industries and they get lost in the industries, and God taps them on the back and say, I never intended you to get lost here. I gave you the experiences that you would use like you're using right now.
You have to know who you are, and you have to know what you stand for. There's an old saying that if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. So you have to know really who you are and what you stand for. So when those elements come your way, you know whether or not to walk toward them or to walk away from them.
So when people say, listen, I remember when you wore that crown and you were on the stage, and does that move you? It seems that you have a spirit of gratitude and appreciation, but you're not moved.
I'm thankful and excited that they do remember that, but that was at that time. That was then, from that point. And
how did you choose education?
Education chose me.
Okay.
I was working for Mississippi Power and Light at the time. It's Entergy now. And was in a store called Piggly Wiggly. You remember Piggly Wiggly? Yeah, I remember
Piggly Wiggly. And you go to some of the rural cities, they're still there.
I was at home.
Some great brands that you can buy there, actually.
I happened to be at home in Durant and was in Piggly Wiggly, and Mr. Irby came up to me and said, where do you work? And I said, I work for Mississippi Power and Light in the engineering department doing some things. And he looked and he said, well, several people have started calling Holmes Community College looking for you. They thought you worked for us. And I said,
oh, wow.
And I said, well, why would they think that? And he said, well, what are you doing in schools? And I said, well, I helped to create a program with Mississippi Power and Light, which is a stay-in-school program for middle school. And so I am out in the school systems, helping to conduct the program. And he said, okay. Well, a couple of weeks later, I get a phone call from Mr. Irby. Said, we have a position open. Would you like to come work for us? I said, nope. And it wasn't long after that when I found out the infertility. And I started thinking if I adopted, I needed to make a change so I can be off with my child.
Have stability, be off, have flexibility in your schedule. Mm-hmm. My goodness, what a testimony.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stand by.
So you're in education, and you stayed in education
31 and a half years.
That's incredible.
31 and a half.
Not intending to be in education.
My plan was to get vested in the state and then to go back into corporate America.
So what do you say to God? What do you say to God when he changes your plans? Like, do you know what you're doing, God? This is not where I really want to be.
At first, I said, okay, God, this is a joke. You really got this man looking for me. And am I going to take this position? And then came up with the standpoint that I found out I could not have children and started thinking about adopting. And it was just funny how it was making a complete circle. Just listening, starting taking a look at what was being offered. Mississippi Power and Light at that time was offering me another position, and I was going to have to travel a little bit with that position, and it was just all starting to make sense. And so I took a pay cut and went into the field of education.
So during this time, you found out that you could not birth a daughter. Now what happens? Do you say, God, I just give up then?
No, I did not. Even though I was hurt, there was a lot of pain because North Park had just opened, and I remember sitting in North Park Mall one day, just sitting there, and a teenager passed me, and she was pregnant, and I remember looking at her, going, "I'm not understanding this.
Wow.
I can take care of a child. I'm married. Whatever the situation was with us. And here's this teen, and Lord, she's pregnant, and she's still in school, and she still has her whole life to lead, but she's pregnant, and I'm not understanding why that's not me." So I went through a lot of that from that point, trying to understand the situation, trying to figure out why me. And I remember when my sister-in-law got pregnant, and she did not want to tell me because she thought she would hurt my feelings. And I said, "Sis, no, I am so happy and excited, for you." So we went through that joyful time, but I had to let her know that's her joy, and my joy is there with you. I am not upset. I'm not disappointed from that point. My disappointment was really with a teen. And I think when I told her about that teen, and that teen had not done anything to me, but it was just that, just sitting there in the mall, and I happened to share that with my sister-in-law, not knowing at the time she was pregnant.
Oh, my goodness.
And, so we went through that, and of course that's okay now. But I think God prepares us, not knowing that he's preparing you for something. Just like when he put Mr. Irby in my path and Piggly Wiggly. And then I switched over to education and started to teach and fell in love with my students, fell in love with mentoring and guiding and putting productive people into the workforce. Now, you talked about the pageant arena earlier. What really brings joy to my heart is me seeing my former students and what they're doing.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Now, to me, that's my crown. That's bigger than the crown that I wore when I was Mrs. Mississippi. The opportunity to see my students productive, putting back into society what I taught them, and then just being successful in what they're doing. I always go, I did a portion of that. Where's my 10%? That's what
That's
I tell.
right.
I tell
That's
them all the
right.
time, where's my 10%?
That's right.
That brings me more joy. And I loved being Mrs. Mississippi. I love representing the state. But my joy comes from seeing the students that I've taught.
So when do you get to a place you say, okay, God, what are you going to do about this? That you realize you cannot have a biological child. So what do you do about that? But there's yet a yearning in your heart.
Actually, it was Carla, and I started talking about adoption.
My wife, Carla.
Your wife, Carla. And I said, Carla,
She is such a blessing.
I said, here's the funny thing. I always said I wanted to have 2 biological children and then adopt a third one.
Oh, wow.
Always said that. So when we started talking about adoption, she and we just started having conversations about adoption, the process, the procedures, and then I got asked to serve on a board for an adoption center. And I said, God, this is not funny. This is not funny. Carla actually recommended me. And I was like, when I got the call, I was like, this is not funny. Can't do this. Can't do it. And I had to step back for a second because I did not.
It's just too much.
It was too much. It was just too much.
Emotionally.
And Carla did call me and say, I recommend. I said, Carla, I can't. It's a little bit too much. I'm adapting. I'm learning because I had my moments. I still had my moments. I was going into it was like year 2 after learning that I could not have children. So a lot of this started to work and go, but it started to be a little bit too much. So then I found myself being involved in everything. And once I look back on it now, I was involved to hide the pain.
Oh, wow.
I was involved to hide the pain because the more active I was, I didn't have the opportunity to sit and think about it. Did not have the opportunity to sit and think about it. But along the way, Carla and I started back talking. She called me out of the blue one day and said, "Have we done our adoption papers?" And I started laughing. I said, "No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I don't think I'm going to go that route. I think it's just going to be Ken and I." And she said, "No, sis, you got too much to offer."
You do.
And then I ran into another friend of mine who was a social worker. And she just happened out of the blue. God places people there. Out of the blue, she just started talking to me about adoption. And I said, "Why are you talking to me about adoption?" She said, "Girl, I don't know. We were just sitting here having a conversation, and just as a social worker, I was just talking to you about being a foster mom or adopting or whatever." And I never told her that I could not have children. Never. So we had that conversation. And then about 2 months later, I called her back and said, I really would like to talk to you about adopting. And so she put me on the path on what I needed to do.
So listen, I want you to come a little closer. I want you to come a little closer. I want you to listen. What a remarkable story. What is God trying to tell you? I know it seems that you've been hit hard. There are so many things that are going on in your life, unpleasant things that have distracted you. But in all of that, what is the Lord trying to tell you? Listening to this story, listen, the purpose of me having friends on like Katrina is not that she tells her business, all of the intimacies of her business, but to encourage you that your life has purpose and pain has purpose. God is not like the Wizard of Oz with a big club, and when you fall, he wants to club you. He wants to beat, and he wants to cheer your fall, and he takes pleasure in your fall. No, he loves you, and he cares about you, and he knows exactly where you are and what you're going through. The question is, what is God trying to tell you? I want to ask you just to get still. You need to unplug from the noise. You need to unplug from the distractions. You need to unplug from social media. You need to unplug from your crowd. You need to unplug from your busy schedule. And you need to sit and ask the Lord, what are you trying to tell me? Number one, where are you trying to lead me? And as much passion and eagerness as you need to ask that question, guess what? The Lord has been waiting for you to ask that question. It's just like the prodigal son's father. When the prodigal son was walking down the road, the street, whatever, walking back home, the father was on the porch waiting to receive him. The father's on the porch waiting for you to come back home. So the intent is never to just pour out, but your life has purpose. And oftentimes, I used to pray this, Katrina, before the Lord got a hold of my life and before I surrendered The key is surrender. Lord, I want you to bless my plan. Lord, bless my plan. Lord, bless my plan.
I like that. I like that.
I'm supposed to be in New York right now working for NBC right today. I had it all figured out. I was on the trajectory. I was, man, I was going up the ladder. Started out at ABC, WAPT, went to the Fox affiliate, went and managed the NBC affiliate. I was on that, man, I was headed that way. Lord said, that's your plan, not mine. I have a bigger plan. And I'm afraid that oftentimes we're in misery because we're out of God's will. We're out of his purpose for our life. And no one would, you would not, you didn't ask for this. But you didn't ask for this. You didn't ask for this life. You don't want to go through it again.
Oh, no.
But you're smiling. What in the world? That's an oxymoron. You're smiling.
Because I'm blessed and
What?
highly favored. You know, I didn't have to be here from that standpoint. I didn't have to. Mammogram may not have found that lump. So, you know, it could have been 2 or 3 years before it popped up. And it could have been a different stage or a different outcome. So from that point, I'm blessed and highly favored. I look back over my life, I may not have ever adopted. So I may not have had the opportunity to experience motherhood. Because I tell her all the time, I gave birth to you. I gave birth to you straight from my heart. I prayed every day for you. And so she laughs every time I tell her that. But I'm blessed and highly favored.
For those that they're not able to birth a child biologically, how would you encourage them that you can be a wonderful dad and mom, as Ken and I are? How would you encourage them there are other opportunities?
There are a lot of children out there looking for parents.
Talk to them.
You know, whether it's foster care or whether it's adoption centers, but there are children who need a mom and a dad, or just a mom or just a dad. And so just because you're not able to give birth biologically does not mean you don't have the opportunity to serve in that role. You just have to sit, meditate, take the moment just to think, is this something that I want to put myself into by becoming a foster care parent, by adopting a child and giving someone else love and the opportunity to experience, you know, that gift from you that you have to give. And I do not regret one moment from the day I picked that baby up to the day I look at her today.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that question. If you knew then,
if I knew then what I know now,
about when you embraced your Jap,
my job.
okay, the joy that she brings your heart, and the joy that you bring to her heart.
She has fulfilled me. So it doesn't matter what else I've done in my life. My biggest joy is Caitlin. She is my biggest joy in my life. She has truly fulfilled.
I can only imagine how that makes her heart feel.
Yeah.
For you to say that.
I tell her we should have just got one more. She should have had a sibling. But that's the after effect, because once she was able to the point that she could walk and could do for herself, I was like, oh, no.
So did you ask God, okay, God, how am I supposed to do this? When adoption, am I ready for this? How am I supposed to do? Will I have the love, knowing that she didn't grow up inside of me? Were there questions like that? And there are hesitations, because I'm sure that there are hesitations of people like that. And I want you to delve into that when we go into a commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. My guest today is Katrina Myricks. So there are those that would say, I've considered it, but I'm afraid that I'll be ill-equipped. Or can I have the same kind of love? What would you say?
You can. I didn't grow up around babies. So it wasn't like I went into this knowing what to do as a mother. I remember my mom and my mother-in-law being there. And that first night, I said, "Go home. I got this." And I looked over at Ken and said, "I think we need to give her a bath, but how do we do that?"
Oh my goodness.
So I called her godmother. She came over and said, "Let's go to Walmart." And we did all of that. And she came home and showed me how to give Caitlin a bath. But it was a village
Yeah.
that assisted me.
Hold
But
that thought. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. It does take a village.
it does.
And what I've learned in my life, that God created us in a big old village. That we were not created for isolation or even habitation to habitate away from one another. God created us to mingle and to socialize and to touch one another. There was an experiment done years ago about that. One baby not being touched, another baby being same age, same birth, time, and how one flourished that was being touched and talked to and loved on. The other one didn't have any human touch, and the baby had developed all kinds of health issues. We were created to love one another. So you didn't have a clue.
I didn't have a clue. I didn't. But I took 6 weeks off work as if I had had a baby.
You took 6 weeks off work because you were in a new industry.
I was in a new industry.
That gave you that flexibility.
That gave me that flexibility.
God.
And I did it from a standpoint that I gave birth to this child. And I needed to connect with her. Because remember, I didn't go through 9 months of carrying a child. So every day, Caitlin and I we had our moments. I would sit and hold her and look at her, and I would say, "I'm your mother. You're my daughter. Neither one of us know what we're doing, but we're going to get through this together." You had to be
We'll
there.
get through it together.
You had to be there. I would sit and just look at her and go, "Okay, what's going on? What do we do?" My mother and mother-in-law would say, "We're on our way." And I said, no. So for the first couple of days, Ken and I needed that time just to connect.
Yeah, right.
And so after about a week, I started calling people, say, "Okay, now I need you.
Now come over in here.
Now I need you. I don't know what sleep looks like. I don't
That's
know."
interesting that you would.
those.
It's interesting, and I apologize of the heart.
Yeah.
That was because that was a hard interruption. You said I had to sit with her by myself. Ken and I had to sit with her because I didn't carry her for 9 months,
didn't carry her
that
for 9
makes
months.
sense. So there was no bonding. So you needed that time to bond.
And I didn't need everyone else around us. So we just took a couple of days just for, us to bond. And neither one of us knew nothing about a baby. But we did. We took that time out to bond and just
And now you're inseparable.
now we're
You
inseparable.
and Caitlin, you're inseparable. Listen, I got to get you back. She promised to come back, ladies and gentlemen. Next time you see her, she's going to be on my podcast set. All right. But let's talk about as if you spent 30 plus years in education, as if you didn't have enough torture. Now you're the executive director of Chamber of Commerce of Madison County, one of the busiest, most aggressive counties in the state of Mississippi, one of the most flourishing counties in the state of Mississippi. How did you land there, and what do you do there?
Well, I was involved with the chamber years ago.
You're always involved in things.
So remember I told you I was involved with the chamber when Caitlin came into my life. The chamber at that time gave me a baby shower. So it's sort of like a full circle moment.
Wow.
I was a Leadership Madison County graduate, and then I moved from that point working with their education committee and so forth with the chamber. So I was heavily involved with the chamber at one time, and then stepped away and was retired for 4 years.
Retired
for 4
and
and a half
Katrina,
years.
it just doesn't fit together.
I needed something to do.
I know you did.
I wanted something to do.
Yeah.
But each morning I would get up to walk. I was praying for God to give me something where I could make a difference and where I would enjoy going to work. Because remember, I'm retired. So I wanted a position, whether it was full-time, part-time, where I could go in, make a difference, and enjoy going to work.
And so what do you do in your position? except for probably you're like the president. I akin your position to being like the president. So you're like the president of Madison County, because I've never known you to go anywhere and just say, okay, what do you want us to do? I've known with your personality, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to get this done, we're going to do that. And to prove that, I'll call Caitlin, and she'll probably agree with me. Anyway, go ahead. So the president of Madison County is...
I'm not the president. I am the executive director.
Okay.
I have a board president.
Okay.
I have a board
wink,
president.
wink. Y'all wink, wink, right?
I have a
Who's
board
running
that I
who?
work
Okay.
with,
All right.
and I have
we'll go along
a-
with it for security of your job's sake.
And I do have a wonderful young lady who works in the office with me as well. So the two of us oversee the chamber and work with the board.
I got it.
So we do a number of things, actually.
And that board, actually Madison County, they need you and a person like you, because it is booming.
Yeah.
The county is booming with industry coming, and it needs someone in that position with passion, with skill set and knowledge. And boy, you're a perfect fit.
Yeah. So we do good. Our theme is igniting business growth together.
Igniting. That's the name of my network, digital network, Ignite.
Okay.
IgniteMS.TV. So your brand again is what? Your theme again is what?
Igniting business growth together in Madison County.
Did you ever think, if you had to write your life script, and you had to be in charge of it, not everything that you've gone through, where would you be now?
Where would I be if I was writing?
If you had to write, and from, it's like all little girl, well, I want to be married to Prince Charming, or the guy's like, I want to be a fireman or a policeman. Little girl, I want to be a doctor or a nurse or a lawyer. How would your script look? I just told you, if it was left up to me, I would be in New York. I would be a television executive right now at the corporate level.
I would be a sports broadcaster for ESPN. Yeah, or have my own national talk show.
I could see.
Yeah.
Now, sports
Yeah.
kind of threw me off. National talk show, it does not throw me off.
Yeah, one of the two. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Katrina Myricks and Larry Nix program. We'll see you next week. Thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
We have a lot more runway to cover together. You're such a blessing.
I appreciate it.
Thank
You and
God
your
for you.
family both are a blessing to me.
You're a blessing. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a great weekend. Thank you for being with me this week. I'll see you Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And remember this, you matter. See you
Hey,
next
my
time.
name is
Wow. Didn't know that.
That was fun.
Sport.